No. Yeah. What's going on, golf addicts? David Barnett here of the Tour Junkies. Pat Perry right here with me. We are live and in person this week, getting ready to film some content for the old PGA Tour.
Yeah.
So we're together. We're in person. Normally I'm in Augusta. He's in Savannah. But tonight we are together. We just finished recording the Tour Junkies podcast for the WGC-MEXICO 2020 live from Club de Golf
Chapultepec.
In Mexico City, Mexico. It's a 70-something man field event, no cut. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Pat's going to tell you about the golf course. We're going to talk about a couple guys we disagreed on during the podcast recording. And then we're going to give you some DK Sportsbook plays for not just the WGC Mexico, but also the alternate field event that is a full field event with a cut going on in Puerto Rico. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. We're on a little bit of a heater lately. You know, Pat hit Nick Taylor at 80-1 a couple of weeks ago, so if you're trailing that, you need to check that out. We had a couple big sweats going last week. We didn't mention it on this show, but on our podcast, talked about Harold Varner III at 400-1 last week for the Genesis, who was standing on the 10th tee as the leader on Sunday with 9 holes to play and coughed it up. Pat also talked about Joel Damon at 275-1, who finished, basically would have finished runner-up, but he had to make a birdie on 18, didn't make it, finished bogey, finished 6th, is what it is. So we've had a couple good weeks going, some good sweats. Let's talk about the WGC Mexico. We are probably 4 tequilas on the rocks with orange deep a piece. Cheers to you, sir. So let's get to going. Tell us about Club de Golf Chapultepec.
Yeah, so I'm glad you talked about the name of the course first, because I don't want to try to butcher that again like I did on the podcast. But yeah, it is a par 71 playing just over 7,300 yards. But it's probably going to play more like 6,900 yards when you look at the elevation here in Mexico City. This is one of the highest courses as far as above sea level. They will play all year long. So that is important to look at. This, we have seen bombers do well here. DJ's won twice out of the 3 years they've played here. Mickelson, who actually bombs it now, won it back in 2018. So they definitely have an advantage. But because of the elevation, I do think you see almost any type player that can play this course well. It's really similar, actually, to what we saw last week at Riviera. You got that was whew. As we mentioned,
You were cruising there for a minute.
I was cruising. As we mentioned,
It was really similar, actually.
So, anyway, you got tight tree-lined fairways. Very small greens that have a lot of undulation on them. POA greens, just like we had last week. Kikuyu
This
grass.
is really our last POA
for a while.
And Kikuyu.
Yeah.
I think for like the rest of the year.
Yeah, Kikuyu
No more
grass.
POA Kikuyu.
Yeah, but just has a classic feel to it. This is one of those courses like last week where it's really not necessarily, hitting it in the fairway, but where you put it off the tee. You've got to give yourself a good angle into these holes. Strokes gained approach is very important, in order to attack it. Okay, so there's a lot of dog legs out here. You just got to be able to hit these fairways in the right spots and give yourself the best opportunity to score out here on this course. And the only way you're going to do that is by put it in the right spot off the fairway. Strokes gained approach. Scrambling's always key on these smaller green courses, so I think that's something to look at. Again, bombers have always fared well here, but I think with elevation, certainly we're going to look at some, all types of players. One thing to note, actually, I'll mention that when it comes to the gambling piece, but outside of that, that's all I got for the course. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's open to almost anybody can win here, but just it's a small sample size, right? We've only played at this golf course the last 3 years. Before that, it was at Trump Doral. But in the last 3 years, DJ won twice, Phil won once. I mean, another stat that I mentioned on the podcast is in the last in 12 rounds, so he's played all 3 years at Club de Golf Chapultepec. DJ has shot in the 60s on this par 71, 11 of the 12 rounds. The next closest to him is a handful of guys that have shot the last 7 out of 12 rounds in the 60s. So DJ cruises here. Absolutely cruises here. We don't disagree on DJ. I would say just don't overthink it. I think DJ's a lock here, just coming off of Riviera playing well. Here's what we've also seen the last 3 years. Guys who play Riviera the week before, or played this tournament used to be played after the Honda. Guys who play the week before tend to do well. I do think coming off of Riviera, where you also have Kikuyu fairways, Kikuyu rough, and POA greens, I think you just have a little bit of an edge. So if you've got a coin flip between 2 guys and you can't decide on if one of them's played Riviera last week, even if they miss a cut and one hasn't, I kind of give a slight edge to the one who played Riviera.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Justin Thomas, by the way, has the course record here at 62, which he shot in both 2018 and 2019, but he missed the cut just this past week at Riviera. Maybe you have a little bit of ownership leverage in Justin Thomas as people might want to get off.
Love JT this week. I'm disregarding last week's miscut.
Another guy you love that I'm not crazy about is Tommy Fleetwood. Now, Tommy Fleetwood is making his PGA Tour debut this week, and Fleetwood has played well here in the past. You know, he's played here. I think he's played here every year at Club Big Golf Chapultepec. He is definitely a ball striker for sure, but we haven't seen him since the fall, since the WGC HSBC, where he didn't play great in terms of the PGA Tour. I feel like at his price of what, 9,200? Is he 9,200, 9,400, something like that?
9,200.
I feel like at his price he could be a little chalky. You know, the last 2 years he's played the week before. He hasn't played since the Omega Dubai Desert Classic at the end of January, where he did play well. But I just think the volatility with Tommy and a lack of I don't know, just being ready to go.
Well,
I disagree.
Well, look, I mean, clearly there could be a reason that he has chosen to come back for this first event over here.
Well, it's a WGC. He's not going to avoid a WGC. It's a no-cut money grab.
Well, there's several guys that we've seen drop out that aren't playing.
There's like 3.
Well, I'm just saying he is starting his event over here in Mexico, where he's played 3 straight years with a second place finish in 2017, 14th in 2018, a top 20 finish in 2019. You mentioned it. I mean, he's a guy that definitely checks a lot of boxes as far as this course is concerned, to be able to play well. No, we haven't seen him recently on the tour, but he has played in Abu Dhabi, and I think it was Saudi Arabia. He was 11th. He was 2nd at Abu Dhabi, so it's not like the form isn't there. POA is his best surface when it comes to putting, so he actually putts extremely well in POA. He is 22nd in the field, by the way, when it comes to strokes gained putting over those last 100 rounds on POA greens. So I think that's something that you want to look at with Fleetwood. And so again, you talk about checking boxes. He's got the history here. He is in good form, despite the fact that we haven't seen him. And maybe you're going to get him at a little bit lower ownership because of that.
No.
So I don't think no. I think you're wrong on the ownership. And
what do you think the ownership's going to be?
You know I'm terrible at guessing ownership.
Yeah, you are.
But it's going to be spread out a little more in a no-cut 70-player field event where I think you can play him either in tournaments or cash games. So I like Fleetwood.
I think the discount that people are going to feel like they get him at 9,200. I think he's going to be. There's no way he comes in less than 13%. Like I think your over/under is like 13% across most DraftKings contests.
But I'm happy playing him in 13.
I'm not saying that's like super chalk. It's not. Yeah. And I do think that, you know, with the cream at the top of this price range, you're going to have diluted ownership. Listen, we talked about DJ in the opening. I think DJ is going to be chalk, but I don't care. I'll eat that. I don't know. I got a feeling about Tommy. Now, you were right about fading Tiger last week. Okay. That means it's probably my turn.
So maybe it is, but I like Fleetwood. I'm gonna play.
Okay. Moving on from Fleetwood, I have one more player to talk through with you. Do you have anybody?
Is this one you disagreed with me?
Yeah.
Why does it always seem like this is a one-way street?
Because I take notes. You don't. I wrote down a note.
We're in a hotel room.
I wrote down a note right here.
In a car.
I vehemently disagree with this player. I wrote down that note.
Tell me who you vehemently.
I cannot believe you want to fade Louis Oosthuizen. Like, who is in ridiculous form, way better than Fleetwood. He's cheaper than Fleetwood. He's a world-class player.
First off, how is Fleetwood in bad form when his last 2 events he's finished 11th and 2nd?
I didn't say he was in bad form. I just said we haven't seen him in a few weeks.
Okay.
But I'm saying OOSTHUIZEN is in better form. Third at the WGC HSBC, where Fleetwood finished like 50th something. Runner-up at the South African Open.
That was like 6 months ago.
Runner-up at the South African, 5th at the Abu Dhabi, 23rd at the Omega Dubai. Now, I also mentioned Kikuyu, fairways, and rough. You tend to see that in Australia, South Africa. So you get a little bit of edge if you've got a coin flip between 2 players and one of them South African or Australian and everything else, all things considered equal. I like the South African or Australian. Louis Oosthuizen, South African. He's played here. He's got experience here. He's a bomber. He's a ball striker. I don't know how you fade Louis Oosthuizen.
I just don't like him. I mean, we haven't.
Okay, well, that's not good enough. It's not good enough for the people out there.
You said you didn't like Fleetwood because you had a feeling.
No.
You just said that.
No, I had data to back it up a little bit.
All right. Well, I don't. Here's the thing. Louis said we've never seen him on this course, so that's one. He hasn't played here. Just kidding. Yeah, he has. Sorry. I was thinking.
He's played here every year.
I was thinking about something else. But he's never finished better than T25 here, which isn't great in a 70-man field event.
It's not great.
So, I mean,
it's not.
So there's no history here.
He's in better form right now than he's ever been coming into this golf tournament.
Look, I don't like it. He's doesn't check the box in scrambling for me, which I do think is important. He is checking the boxes in stroke gain approach. I'm with you there. But look, I just think he's another guy that I think a lot of people are going to jump on at that price. It's a good price, I think, at $8,900. I'm okay with that. But I don't know.
Okay.
Just not a big fan of Louis.
You have anybody else that disagree with me?
I'm surprised you like Louis.
I love
the guy could easily drink some bad water in Mexico.
But he hasn't in 3 years. He's managed
it.
It's not about water for Louis. It's about the mattress.
Okay.
It's not about the water.
All right. Either way.
Anybody?
And I love Louis. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Louis.
All right, we're moving on to sportsbook bets.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got DraftKings sportsbook plays we want to talk about tonight. Well, speaking of Louis, he's at 45-1. I think that's interesting. Now, did you say it in this show, or did you only say it in our podcast about the previous winners at WGC events being 25-1 or better?
I said it on. I haven't said it on this show yet.
Go ahead, say it now.
That was what I was going to talk about, which I said in the beginning of this show. I kind of teased, but 13 of the last 16 winners of WGC events have all been at 25-1 or shorter as far as the odds are concerned. So, at least for a WGC event, that data tells us that the cream rises to the top, and you might have to, even though DP hates it.
We need another phrase for the cream rises to the top.
We do. What else rises to the top of something?
Well,
I mean, cream.
I can think of something inappropriate for Tour Junkies.
Yeah.
Even inappropriate for Tour Junkies After Dark.
Yeah, anyway.
Maybe leave in the comments what we should substitute cream rising to the top for. But anyway.
You get what we're saying. The top players tend to win this event.
Shorter odds guys tend to be the way to go.
And so,
henceforth,
DB is going to have to suck it up and maybe take a few shorter odds guys. But this week, I'm going to start. And I'm going to
Great,
start.
I would love for you to start.
All right, I'm going to start with my longest odds and go from there.
What is it, like 28-1?
Nope. Eric Van Rooyen at 150-1.
That's a terrible pick.
Rafa Cabrera Bello at 100-1. I like.
I don't mind that one.
I think a guy that I didn't talk about on the show that I think could be worth playing as far as a bet would be Kevin Kisner at 90-1. Also, I like that now we're getting shorter, so we're getting under to 50-1 odds. I like Morikawa at 40-1. I like Fleetwood at 22-1. And the shortest guy I'm going to go is Xander.
God, you're going shorter than 22-1?
Yep, going to go Xander Schauffele at 20-1. I like him as well.
Ugh. All right.
I just told you that most every winner of this event is shorter than 25.
All right, I will go Abraham Ancer at 70-1 on DK Sportsbook right now. Abraham playing for the second time, I think, at this event. He's a Mexico guy. comfortable here. Great driver of the golf ball.
Yeah.
Second time?
Second time.
You got to be in the fairway here so that you can put yourself
Third time.
in the right angles going into these greens. He did play the Genesis last week. Didn't finish great, but played a great Friday round to make the cut. I like Abe Ancer at 70-1. Also like Patrick Reed at 55-1. Love Reed here in terms of the scrambling ability. He actually, believe it or not, Reed's best putting surface is POA. He's a great putter all around on any surface, but he's actually really good on POA. So I like Reed at 55-1. I like Louis at 45-1 for all the reasons I mentioned previously. And then finally, my shortest odds guy is Paul Casey at 35-1, who has a great record here at Club de Golf Chapultepec and is also coming off of a good week at the Genesis. Good form, ball striker. Just need him to close the door. Just need him to put 4 rounds together. That's it. Now, I do think we should talk briefly about the Puerto Rico.
Yep.
So there's an alternate field event in the Puerto Rico that we just want to hit quickly on in terms of some betting prices that we like on DK Sportsbook. Now, if you're playing DFS, here's a word to the wise. Don't play Victor Hovland. Like, I don't know how you play Victor Hovland at 11-4 in this field. This is an alternate field event where the gap between, the best player in the field, which I don't actually think is Victor Hovland, and the 25th player in the field or the 50th player in the field is not that. It's not that narrow, right? Like, or not that wide. Like, it's everybody here is on the same level, just about. Anybody can win this golf tournament. In terms of the betting odds, I'll start at 55-1. I love Chase Seifert. Seifert?
I think it's Seifert.
Seifert.
Yeah.
It's probably Seifert.
Yeah.
Chase, we know his name is Chase, not Sahasi.
Very odd.
If it were Sahasi, that would be weird.
Yeah.
But
I normally don't correct you on spelling, but that
was weird. That felt weird.
Yeah.
Chase Seifert, I do like at 55-1, who's been playing very well lately. Bomber, scorer, let's go Chase. At 66-1, a guy that was born of the loins of a guy that Pat used to root for because he's old. Tyler McCumber, who is a young player off the Korn Ferry Tour, is at 66-1. His dad, Mark McCumber, right? Used to play on the PGA Tour, and Pat is old enough to remember that being relevant. I like him at 66-1. Sebastian CAPPELEN, been on the podcast before, the Tour Junkies podcast, loves resort-style courses that you can be aggressive on, that require scoring. Enter Puerto Rico. He's at 90-1. And then finally, another podcast visitor, Mr. Hank LeBioda, who looks like Pat except skinnier with better hair. He is at 100-1. He's a scorer. Can go low at any moment. 100-1 is a stupid number for Hank LeBioda. I love it. You wrap it up.
Great. That was some good picking. I'm going to start.
Try not to get upside up my nose.
I'm going to start. I'm going to go short, a little bit shorter than you started. I'm going to go with our boy Matt NESMITH at 33-1. That's
I don't mind NESMITH.
Shortest odds I'm going to go is right there at 33-1. I also like him on DraftKings for your DFS lineups. So I think that is a good play as well. Going out a little bit longer, a guy that we saw have some success last week on the Korn Ferry Tour event was Peter UIHLEIN, who is, he kind of faded a little bit on Sunday, but he's at 50-1. I like him. A guy that we've seen play, has a lot of experience on tour and in these type events.
Peter UIHLEIN.
Yeah, I like him. He played well last week on the Korn Ferry Tour. I like your Tyler McCumber pick. I think that's a great one. So I'm going to go there. Stop distracting me in the background with all your drinking and stuff, just shenanigans. Another guy that, we've seen play decent on tour lately is Michael GLIGIC at 125-1. I think that could be an interesting, just long shot. Put $1 on it. Just put $1 on it. Outside of that, I don't really have a whole lot. That's it. I just had to end up with that.
Pat, will you take a sip of this White Claw?
I hate White Claw.
For the record.
For what record?
Just the record of you drinking a White Claw.
Okay.
thank you guys. May your screens be green for the WGC Mexico. Hope your betting picks pay off for the DK Sportsbook. And hey, give this a thumbs up. You know, we may not be your style. We may not be all that you want us to be. But, you know, we are. We are here. And we're making an effort. And we're in a hotel room, and we're bringing ring lights, and we're hauling audio equipment around. So we're at least making an effort. You know what I mean?
We're doing what we can for the people.
Give us a little bit of love. Thumbs up. Positive comment would be great. For those of you who don't, we know who you are and you're a tool. So, all right. Yep. May your screens be green. See ya!